just looked up into the night sky one day and wondered, what is out there? I mean, the universe is vast. It's full of stars and different planets. It is around 93 billion light years long. But that's just in our observable universe. It could go even farther than that. It could even be infinite. And if there's an infinite amount of galaxies, with an infinite amount of stars, with an infinite amount of planets, you think that we're the only one that has life on it? Come on now. That's a bit weird. Think about it, though. There are more stars in our observable universe than grains of sand on our very Earth. Come on, bruh. Nah, come on, bruh. So, and all of them stars have around a lot of planets orbiting them. But still, one of those planets have to have life on it. Come on, bro. That's crazy. We have planets around us. I mean, I think one of the most habitable ones people think of is Mars, or maybe even Europa, or Titan. So, other planets probably have habitable worlds on them too. I wonder what one outside of our solar system would be like. Let's go ahead and look at some of them, shall we? Earth is a lush planet that harbors a unique phenomenon known as life that we don't really know exists out otherwards. It could have existed on Mars with the strange supposed cell fossils they've recently found, and how Europa has an ocean. I personally believe that there is probably microbes on Europa. But who knows, you know? These life are very strange and unique. Living substances that form together to form creatures that are alive. They can be very strange and unique. And, well, they're just very strange. I mean, look at this cat. It's so cute, isn't it? And, well, yeah, they can be very cute. But, yeah, that's the very strange phenomenon about Earth. It has life. Like, is there another planet out there that has life? Well, this is hydrothermal vents. And it's actually what we think that actually cause life on our Earth, forming cells that will then go up and form major bodies and then crawl on land and do all that blah 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 stuff. This is a galaxy, the Andromeda Galaxy, our closest galaxy neighbor. And right around there, on its galaxy surface, is life on a planet. This is a beautiful, beautiful star, which is located around that point. It is called Gorva YX18-18, or Gorva for short. Let's just call it that, without the normal numbers. It is a beautiful star that is K-type. It is a little smaller than our sun, and produces a little bit more, well, a little less light, and lives a little longer. Luckily, it's not an M-type star, as those are very, very, unstable. This star, however, has multiple planets orbiting it, as it was found by the Paralian telescope on Earth that has been orbiting it, or orbiting our galaxy, for a long time, and managed just to discover it, and its array of planets that also are on its surface. One of these planets is Ovla YX1-13, or Ovla. Ovla is so close to Gorva that it has developed an oblong shape, almost like an oval shape due to the gravitational pull of Gorva, shaping it into a weird egg. This planet is tidally locked. One side experiences a never-ending night, while one other experiences a never-ending day. And in between, it's the midnight zone, which is the perfect temperature. But this place has no atmosphere and no magnetic field, so life cannot exist on its surface. So, And it's also hit more frequently by solar flares. So, if you live on this planet, you're cooked. Literally. The second planet, which is a bit farther out than Earth, is the habitable planet, known as PULPA. PULPA is a very, very habitable planet. PULPA was its original name, but it's now been since changed to PULPA. Its full name is PULPA YAB-13A. Now, it has water and has very big ice caps because it is a bit further out, meaning it's a bit colder than Earth. It has 2 moons. These moons are named David and Goliath, respectively. We will come back to this beautiful world, as this is going to be the main focus for this project, and its titular alien life. Moving on is a third planet, which is a gas giant. It is a little bit in the habitable zone, but not too much. Its name is Hercules. Hercules 18-778b. It is a giant gas giant that is giant. And it has a couple moons, actually, that we're going to be talking about here. The moons are, well, okay, 2 of them are not perfectly smooth. The very top left one, its name is Rook. The other non-smooth one is Brook. The giant yellow moon is Movus. The gray moon is Tura, and the small brown moon is Su. There is also an asteroid orbiting it, which is called 720. Yeah, number name. This planet is a lot like Jupiter, also around Jupiterus in size, and very Jupiterus in its storms. So, if life does evolve, it would evolve deep within the clouds of this stormy planet. Next up is another gas giant. However, it's a bit smaller, only around the size of Neptune. This small planet, his name is Solva, Y8-14c. It has a fiery ring. This hot, fiery ring was caused by a past moon that it originally had. This past moon, it got caught in its gravitational pull and was ripped apart as it got too close. And, yeah, it broke up its moon into a fiery ring. So, as far as now, it doesn't have any moons. However, it is a very beautiful planet with its bright ring and its purple color. It gets its purple color from sulfur dioxide compounds and ammonia compounds found in its atmosphere, which gives it its purple color. Well, I'm not really a person who's good with chemicals, so that's the best I could come up with. I could be wrong though, guys. I'm not a planet expert. Kill me, I guess. Then there are these 2 small dwarf planets. These dwarf planets' names are Ad-7 and Ker-8. Ad is the bluish planet, and Ker is the tannish one. They both have 1 moon that orbits them. It's kind of orbits like in between them. It's very strange. That moon is called Lu-78-b. It was originally a part of another planet. That planet got hit with an asteroid belt, and a piece of it fell in their orbit. Now it's become their only moon. How lovely. They are also binary planets, so they orbit each other. So, that's nice, right? Twin planets. Lovely. But yes, they are a very beautiful pair that share their small little rocky moon. Next up is the last celestial object. It is the biggest asteroid that sits outside of the asteroid belt, known as Core 7-18-70XYB. Very long name. This small asteroid is very cold and is almost entirely made of ice and rock. So, yeah, a very fun place to visit. You should go here without your spacesuit. It'd be fun, trust me. And this is basically what the solar system looks like. It is mainly made up of the star and its planets and lots of asteroids. But this is what the habitable zones look like. As you can see, Ulvia is not having life, but Pulpa is right in the habitable zone. So, yeah, that's very nice. And all the other planets, they're not having life, except for maybe the gas giant. Maybe. Back down to Pulpa. It is a very beautiful planet, and it has thick tectonic plates. And this is what its map looks like. It has 2 continents, which are named Room and Loom. Now, these 2 continents will, of course, drift due to tectonic activities. I will show you how they drift now. And that's it. That's basically the entire tectonic history of the planet. They basically split up and move down, conjoin together, and the ice starts melting due to some unknown activities that we'll talk about in the near future. Now, on land, it's a wasteland. Rocky mountains and flat ground. It is not habitable. It's mainly made up of gases up there, are carbon dioxide and stuff. So, no, they are not good to breathe. I'm sorry. You would suffocate. It's bad. However, something is brewing deep into the oceans. Hydrothermal vents are what's brewing, caused by past meteor impacts. They started to spew up chemicals from deep inside of the crust of the planet. These chemicals had different types of elements, such as carbon, nitrogen, hydrogen, and stuff like that. These chemicals are good for life, especially carbon, which is now classified as the backbone of cells. So, that's perfect. That is very, very perfect for life. And of course, life started to evolve to feed on the hydrothermal vents chemicals. It spews out more elements than this, but those are just the main ones. This is the first cell. This is known as Leuca. Leuca is a first cell. It is a very protocell, not really a prokaryote and not really a eukaryote. It's somewhere before both of those. It was gonna be the main thing. Like every single animal, plant, bacteria will trace their origins all the way back to these simple cells that feed on the hydrothermal vents. Leuca stands for Last Universal Common Ancestor. So yeah, these are the common ancestor to everything in Pluma or Pulpa. Sorry, they have 2 names basically. And this small thing swims using strange hair-like structures on the body. It has a cell wall and simple organelles within it and ribosomes. So, that's perfect. Perfect for a cell. To reproduce, they use a thing called cell division, where the cell splits into 2 cells that is a genetic copy of one another. That's how these Leuca spread across the planet's oceans and started to diversify a couple million years after they first developed. One of the first descendants is strange. Let's go ahead and look at that, shall we? This is the pulpophiles. The pulpophiles are a type of bacteria that spend their time down there in the water. They also feed on the hydrothermal vents and have simple organelles to help them process some stuff, and as well as to protect the DNA. They form great mats down here. These mats are caused by the pulpophiles somewhat gluing themselves together in thick mats, as well as a thick feeding frenzy caused by these. Their bacterial mats somewhat resemble this, which is kind of gross. I think it would taste like orange juice. The pulpophiles then start, just constantly use cell division to grow their mats and feed among the hydrothermal vents. Once the hydrothermal vents goes down, the currents blush the mat to another hydrothermal vent for them to once again start feeding. Yummy bacteria, especially for some upcoming bacteria, which is this. This is the squirm bacteria. The squirm bacteria has developed an efficient way of feeding, developing flagella, which are a type of structure used for cells to swim. They have been now occasionally feeding on the pulpophiles' mats, feeding down there, and breaking through and consuming the genetic material to create more of these guys. They have thick flagella to swim fast and have complex ones. They're almost a eukaryote, but not quite. They're still somewhat of a prokaryote, but they're starting to get there. And more of the pulpophiles wanted to escape, so they diversified into these. This is the tailbur. The tailbur has developed a type of long, thick flagella, which allows them to swim efficiently. They kind of resemble these, except only one thick flagella, so they kind of look like sperm, except they're brown. They also have thick, complex organelles that are nice. Nice. Nothing else is to really say about them, except they're just another type of bacteria. So, we've talked about the diversification of thick bacterias that have been developing. So, is PULPA only going to be a world full of bacteria? No, of course not. Because that wouldn't be a really cool alien world now, would it? Sapient bacteria, that's nice. Slowly over time, some certain bacteria started to consume the light in the form of photosynthesis, slowly evolving into a type of eukaryote, the first eukaryotic cell. This is the plant cell. The plant cell, in order to absorb the light that is emitted from it, it has developed an orange-like color in order to absorb it. However, the orange may start to become a deep, almost blackish-brown orange, slowly over time. But at this first stage, they are a bright orange to absorb the light. They only grow around the equator, which is the most warm place you can have. They also will form thick mats similar to the bacteria down at the hydrothermal vents, using a specialized glue to form somewhat multicellular structures. These multicellular structures will be basically PULPA's version of algae. So, yeah, that's nice and very, very cool. And, now we have these plants that produce oxygen, pumping it into the atmosphere and the water. So, these are the first multicellular organisms. That's nice. Orange algae. Yeah, tasty. However, a mutation occurred when the plant cells were evolving, slowly evolving them into these. These are the first animal cells. These animal cells also feed on the chemicals and bacteria inside of the ocean, and developed thick organelles like mitochondria and vacuoles inside of their bodies. Slowly over time, some of the animal cells also might start to grow structures by gluing themselves together, similar to the plant cells that developed into an algae-like structures. So, they also might do a similar thing, but since these are animal cells, they will operate a bit differently with their multicellular structures than the plants, thus resulting into these shimmering plankton. Some plankton are kind of like giant bacteria, except they're eukaryotic and they feed on bacteria basically. Some others resemble microorganisms on Earth, and others resemble worms, and others senseless blobs. These are the first multicellular animals. They are a kind of plankton. They have no brain, no organs, nothing much is to say about them. They are constantly just growing, feeding, and multiplying. That's very nice. They reproduce through a form of cell division, and that's quite nice, isn't it? But yeah, they do a sort of mitosis thing and split into two animals. It's strange. But since they have no organs, no mating, okay? No mating. However, they are fed on by the two largest plankton out there. Some resemble jellyfish, while others resemble long worms. Both are actually closely related to each other. Both descend from these types of plankton. And they all feed on similar types of plankton. They are not predatory to each other, but they just sort of feed among the small plankton and bacteria down there. However, some divergence of the somewhat jellyfish-looking plankton started to grow bigger and bigger and bigger, kind of like me. And as they grew bigger and bigger, they started to sink to the floor, but still continued to feed on the plankton and bacteria, thus evolving into this, a strange blue sponge-like creature with two mouths to feed among bacteria and plankton, and small orifices around the bottom, the first reproductive organs. These reproductive organs are very good. And they also have two anuses above the reproductive organs. However, they're closed, so you cannot see the reproductive organs. The long tentacle-like organelle, which is actually the female reproductive organ. They've developed the longer tube-like reproductive organ for the female in order to catch as much sperm as they can and grow eggs and then push them back out. The male one is the flatter, smaller one that is what's producing simple sperm, which is actually a type of cell that is now working with the main body to continue the diversification of its species. So yes, they have developed sperm. What else have they developed? Well, they've also developed, unlike sponges, which are simple and organless, they have developed since the bodies have two reproductive organs that are both male and female, that makes them hermaphodermic, which is similar to many types of snails here on Earth, which have both male and female sex organs. These guys have also developed organs too, unlike sponges. The mouths develop into two throats that lead down to the pot-like stomachs, which then slowly absorb all the nutrients and stuff, and then they go through the two intestines, which absorb the water from it. And then they're ejected through the anus, which is very nice, you know? It's kind of like us after Taco Bell. They've also developed a nervous system that can make decisions around the body, like, am I going to eat today, or am I just gonna start spewing out sperm all day? Who knows, you know? Those are basically the only decisions they can make. These also help control the organs and make the organs do what they need to do in order to survive. So, the nervous system is quite important among these creatures. So, yeah, they're just so beautiful, you know? Really beautiful. They also have larvae. The larvae, once hatched from the egg, will drift along the current and use their tentacles to swim. They also look very jellyfish-like. They actually even have the beginning forms of the two reproductive organs. They can't breed with it, but they already are starting to develop, even during the larval stage. The larval stage also has a nervous system. The nervous system can make little decisions, like, am I going to eat today, or am I going to have to swim around today? Those are basically the only two decisions yet, so, yeah, they don't even have brains yet, guys, so hold them some slack. These also have stomachs. Their mouths are located around the bottom, so the tentacles can grab food and pull it into the two mouths, which then go to the stomach and then out the two anuses, which are now on the main head body. Nice, nice. But then they will also form schools. These vast schools help them gather as much cells, bacteria, and small plankton they can in their tentacles, and then passing it down into their two mouths. Aw, so cute. I don't like them. But once they're starting to grow and mature, they sink down to the floor and form a cocoon. This cocoon is thick, and if you know about animals, you know that this is very similar to many types of butterflies and moths. And then they will hatch out into adults, repeating the cycle. We will call these creatures the duo orises. They live for around 3 years at minimum, and grow and diversify. The worm-like plankton slowly also evolved bigger bodies, developing into these strange slug-like creatures. These small creatures are bottom feeders with the mouth on the very bottom of their body and the reproductive organs on the bottom. Inside, they have developed the first brain, making them smarter than the strange sponge-like creatures and with their jellyfish-like larvae. They have developed a thicker, more developed nervous system to detect things, and with the brain, they can make a bit more decisions and more complex behavior than these strange sponges with 2 sex organs. Come on, man. They've also developed the digestive system. Unlike their jellyfish-like cousins, which have developed into sponge-like creatures, they only have one mouth that leads into the one stomach and then into the small intestine. The small intestine basically absorbs the water from it. And then the large intestine, which is the dark red one, basically shapes the crap or feces into the different shape, allowing it to pass easily through the anus, which is located at the very tip of the tail. That's quite nice, And then they have actually developed a circulatory system. So these guys have blood. The other guys didn't really need it because they don't move around or really breathe. The blood, since they are deep into the water, which means there's basically no oxygen. In order to get more oxygen, they developed a blue blood similar to many types of cephalopods, and developed a heart to pump this blood around the blue veins. So these guys have blue blood. That's sweet, These creatures are very nice, and since they can actually move around with a large snail-like foot at the very bottom of their body, they can actually breed and mate, and that's it. Since they don't have eyes, in order to find mate, they use special scent chemicals to locate each other, and once that happens, they breed. However, a mutation within their evolution caused maybe even one or maybe even a couple individuals to only produce 2 reproductive organs that were the same type. So, 2 male organs and 2 female organs. This got passed down and now competed some other ones, slowly developing into the reproductive organs. This is the male one. The male reproductive organ exhibits a long structure that comes out. This sac internally within it pumps the sperm to the reproductive organ sacs, which attach to the female reproductive organs, and then pump the sperm into it. I'm not going to get into detail about this because some of y'all already know about this, and I don't want to talk about sex right now. And the reproductive organs push the sperm in, and you know what basically happens, right? I hope you do. And yeah, that's how the male reproductive organs work. The female reproductive organs also have a sac, except it's not for the same purpose as you might think. The long female reproductive organs attach to the male ones and gather the sperm and transfer it into the internalized sac. This internalized sac is full of eggs, and the sperm will then fertilize it. And then, once it is fertilized, it will then have a long tube that comes out of their back, which will then lay the eggs on a surface. This surface will then slowly hatch the eggs into the beginning larva, which is basically just an elongated worm-like version that slinks around in the dirt and feeds on detritus and anything else it can eat. We will call these the limichinus. They live for around a year, and they're only about, 3 inches maybe. Just kidding. They're a little bigger than that. The plants have also been developing into large multicellular structures underwater, developing broad leaves in order to absorb as much sunlight as they can through inside of the, deep in the sea. These are very cool plants, except they don't grow deep in the sea like the other creatures we've been talking about. They grow in the shallow seas so they can get more sunlight. You know how this works, right? Developing vast, beautiful meadows of these orange plants with 4 broad leaves. They reproduce via spores with gametangia, similar to earthly plants, kind of like ferns or liverwort plants, and moss. We will call these the Ira indicus folium. I don't speak Latin, so I probably mispronounced that. They grow around, you'll see, as there's a size comparison at the end of the video. As you can see, life has been thriving on this past planet so far, growing sponge-like creatures and other slug-like creatures. Their larvae, small jellyfish-like creatures, and other worms living in the seabed. And the plants developing vast, thick reefs in order to grow and evolve over the many generations to come. As you can see, they have grown sort of large, and they're only going to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And, well, that's pretty much it for this episode of PULPA. I guess I'll see you in the next episode. Go drink some water and hug your mother, which are 2 things I haven't done, so let me go ahead and go do that right now.